this one's wife. Right, that's enough of that. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. There are times when it's important to point out to somebody, that's enough of that, thank you very much. We don't need any more of that behaviour. It often is the case where perhaps a parent admonishes a child or a teacher has to upbraid a pupil. But it's often something that crosses the mind of all reasonable-minded individuals when they see this one's wife in action. Owing to her narcissism, this furnishes her with a rampant sense of entitlement. She believes that she's accessed all areas because the universe revolves around her. Given that she has been imbued with an absence of boundary recognition, she sees nothing wrong with going to events to which she's not been invited, overstaying her welcome, entering places which aren't meant for her, engaging in behaviours which she ought not to, because there isn't the emotional empathy that restrains her. Individuals with emotional empathy, in effect, have an invisible force that guides their actions. Yes, certainly there are times where their emotional empathy causes them to question, should I do this, or I ought not to do that really because that's not the right thing to do. But more usually, the individual who has emotional empathy behaves in the way that they do without actually thinking about it. So, for instance, if they arrived at somebody's house, they just wouldn't walk in. They'd ring the doorbell or knock on the door. They wouldn't think to themselves, oh, hang on a second, I shouldn't just walk into this house. I ought to show some manners and knock on the door first. They automatically do that. You might think, well, that's as a consequence of being well brought up, but actually it's driven by emotional empathy, by recognizing a boundary, by recognizing that it is not appropriate, because it's bad manners and intruding on somebody's space just to go barging into their house. Of course, in other instances, it may be the case that you know the person sufficiently well that you know that they wouldn't mind that you would walk in without needing to knock. But again, you've established that as a consequence of the relationship. This one's wife believes she can go wherever she wants. Those with emotional empathy don't, for instance, take things that don't belong to them. The reason being is that their emotional empathy just doesn't cause them to think that they can do that. It might be that they suffer a diminution in that emotional empathy that causes them to steal. As I mentioned before, people with emotional empathy are not saints. But the starting point is that they don't automatically assume that they can take whatever they want by way of asset appropriation, which is the stance of the narcissist. When it comes to this one's wife, the fact of her narcissism causes her to naturally pursue the prime aims, and she has been designed to do that. Thus, she has been given this sense of entitlement, this absence of accountability. She is given this lack of boundary recognition. She has no real introspection. In a way, the narcissist has a superficial introspection, whereby if the narcissist were invited to consider their actions, they simply go, yeah, I'm right, or I haven't done anything wrong, or I'm the victim here. If they ever consider their actions, and often it doesn't happen, the narcissism just pops up with the answer saying, you're allowed to do this, it isn't your fault, you're the victim here, so your behaviour was appropriate. So any consideration of the situation just always leads to self-exoneration. With this one's wife, we have another instance of her demonstrating her sense of entitlement, much to the chagrin of those around her. It once again comes from her appearance, though this time from a different angle, at the red carpet at the Paley Centre for Media. And here we see a narcissist in action demonstrating a number of facets of her narcissism, which I'm going to break down for you after we've seen this short clip. Here it comes. What do we witness here? Well, first of all, we see the narcissist drinking in the fuel, the lifeblood of the narcissist. This one's wife slowly paces along the red carpet, as she drinks in the fuel that is provided by those watching, primarily members of the press pack. The fact that all of the cameras are trained on her provides her with positive fuel. They are recording her through photographs and film, and therefore there is no threat to control. This is the golden moment for the narcissist. There are no threats to control in that particular instance, and she's being furnished with positive fuel. Whilst this is coming from tertiary sources, it's likely that those behind the lens don't know her and she doesn't know them in a personal capacity. That means that they're tertiary sources, and therefore the fuel is not particularly potent. In fact, it is the weakest potency. Nevertheless, in that moment, she's garnering a rather large amount because there'll be 10, 15, 20 people taking her photographs, all focused upon her, which is precisely what the narcissist loves. They're not threatening her control. Therefore, she need not dole out any particular manipulation. She needs to keep them under control, as her narcissism is saying, this is good, keep milking it. Hence, the slow movement along the red carpet. But what is most interesting about this is the reactions of those around her, which demonstrate that once again, as a consequence of her sense of entitlement and lack of accountability, she's overstaying her welcome. You may have noticed earlier on in the clip that the lady with the white skirt is gesticulating to the other two ladies on the other side of the red carpet as if to say, bring that person on. Already this one's wife is overstaying her welcome, and they're trying to bring the next person onto the red carpet. You'll see the other two ladies are clearly looking rather anxious as they look at this one's wife, and they look to be trying to usher somebody else on, but they're not able to because there's somebody in the way. Yes, this one's wife is still there, parading up and down the red carpet, drawing in that ever so valuable fuel, giving this tee-hee, coquettish little wave that she does, all for the purposes of making her seem like she's engaging and pleasant. You'll notice that those watching don't look at her with smiles, don't look at her with any form of admiration, but rather you can see that they're most likely thinking, I wish she'd get out of the way. Naturally, she's a well-known celebrity who has a place on the red carpet for a period of time, but it's not the case that she's well liked by those around her, as they're not looking on her with any degree of favourable outlook, and you can see that they're looking to get somebody else to come onto the red carpet, and she is in the way. This is demonstrative of the fact that she isn't popular with those that have to work with her, and demonstrates how she always seeks to hog the limelight because she has no concept of overstaying her welcome, and she believes that she is the centre of the universe, which causes her to remain where she is. You can well imagine that one of the two women stood nearest to the camera that's filming this interaction is thinking, right, that's enough of that, and they'd love to get a crook to yank her off the red carpet. But as it is, they have to patiently wait until they manage to usher her away. Another example of how the narcissist behaves, seen in a video analysis. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for watching.